Hmm. 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 नमस्ते फेरि आउनुभएकोमा धेरै धन्यवाद अनि सबैलाई न्यानो स्वागत छ म चाहिँ तपाईहरुको होस्ट अलमल हुँ आज चाहिँ धेरै महत्त्वपूर्ण विषय छलफल गर्नेछौं अनि यस्तो हो स्वर वर्ण ल सुरु गरौँ Welcome everybody, this is your host Almal and today we will go over the vowels of the Nepali alphabet. The swar varna. Probably should have mentioned last time the word for alphabet. Varna mala. Maaf gardinuhos. So vowels, or swar varna. Varna actually refers to a singular letter, and swar refers to the vowel sound. So for today's episode, I will actually have a friend with me, Pabitra, helping me with some of the pronunciation. That way you can hear the pronunciation not only from me, but also from a native Nepali speaker. Oi, Pabi, come on out.
नमस्ते मेरो नाम चाहिँ पवित्र हो
Dhanyavad Bahini. So our first swar varna is a. A as in the sound in up. Pabitra is going to help us out with the examples.
Anar, which means pomegranate, and the next word is abba, which means now.
Thanks, Pabitra. So something interesting to note about is that every consonant inherently has attached to it. That's why when you say any of the consonants, they all end in that sound. Ka, ka, ga, ga, etc. This sound in linguistics is called the schwa. Now, in the Nepali writing system, you can add in a certain symbol to each letter called a diacritic, and this diacritic is called the halanta. And when you add this to a consonant, that consonant loses its schwa, its sound. So then this consonant, with the halanta or kickstand added to it, it becomes a bare consonant or a dead consonant. So instead of ka, it would become k, just the K sound. Anyways, this whole business with the halanta will be discussed in more detail when we go into consonant conjuncts, half letters, and all that good stuff in episode 3. Moving on to our next letter, here we have a long A sound. A as in father. And this letter with the A sound is actually referred to as the akar.
Example of a in Nepali words are ama, which means mom, and ap, which means mango.
सबैभन्दा राम्रो फु भनेर ए हुन्छ अर्को स्वर वर्ण E, which has the formal name of hraswa ikar. Not super important if you're just learning to read, but maybe it's kind of nice to know. Hraswa ikar is pronounced E, as in eat.
Imandar means honest, and Indrani means ramble.
Next, we have the Durga ikar. This is a longer E sound, which is why I have it romanized with 2 letter I's. You'll notice that the formal name retains the ikar, but we have Durga for the long sound, and the previous letter we just looked at had hraswa for the short sound.
Example of this letter is Isor, which is one of the words for God.
After E comes U. U as in the sound you hear in zoo. This letter's formal name is hraswa ukar.
Utnu is a verb that means to rise up or to wake up. Uni means he or she with middle respect.
Next we have the Durga ukar, the long U sound. U as in zoo still. You're probably noticing that the long and short vowels aren't drastically different. So when you're just starting to read, don't overly stress the long sounds. It'll just sound weird.
And this letter itself is exactly a word. U means he, she, or it with low respect.
Next letter is the akar, A, as in the word say.
For example, उदाहरणको लागि एक means one and एकदम means very.
Ekdam ramro udaharan भयो नि. Our next letter is I. This is a glide sound, meaning it is a combination of vowel sounds. First say and then glide into E. E. I. Kind of like ay.
An example of this is aina, which means mirror.
Now we have the okar, pronounced O, as in go.
An example of O is oat, which means lips.
This is another glide vowel. First say O, and then glide into U. O, U, O. Oftentimes I hear it just sounding like ow.
An example is ausadi, which means medicine.
So those 10 vowels we just discussed are independent vowel signs, meaning they can stand on their own. Like if you are writing on a piece of paper, you could write any of these vowels by themselves and that would be okay. But now we are going to get into a few diacritics, or kind of like special little symbols that you can add on top of or around a certain letter, and it changes how you pronounce it just a little bit. The next few diacritics that we'll talk about are often included in any list of Nepali vowels that you may come across, but they're technically diacritics. However, they're still important to learn. So the first diacritic here we have is that little dot that you see above the vowel. It's just that little dot. And what it does is it expresses vowel nasality, as in nasal. So when it's above any vowel or any word, you kind of add a little bit of nasal to it. For example, the word we have there is the word for grape, angur. So it's not just gur, it's angur. We'll have Pabi help us out with the pronunciation here.
Angur, which means grapes.
And we also have this one. It looks like the two dots, the colon that you would see often in English. This diacritic isn't really used that much, and it honestly doesn't really affect the pronunciation either, aside from making the sound aspirated technically. But like I said, you won't really see this in too many words, but I thought it would be good to include it here because when you're starting to read and you see it, you don't need to get all concerned and wonder what in the world is that thing doing. We also have another symbol for expressing that nasal sound in Nepali. It's pretty similar, but it has that little smiley face smile thing under it, and it pretty much does the exact same thing. It makes it more like an sound, kind of like the end of an ing or ung sound in English. This particular diacritic, the dot with the u under it, is called the Chandrabindu.
Yaha, which means here.
Alright, well that just about does it for episode 2. We hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit more about the Nepali alphabet. I've included some links in the description that might be helpful. And I also want to give a special thanks to Pabitra for agreeing to help us out. धेरै धन्यवाद.
You're welcome. धन्यवाद बोलाउनु भएकोमा धेरै रमाइलो लाग्यो.
We'll see you next time on मसँग Learn.
La la la, अब म पनि गर्छु मेरा अधुरा सपना पुरा. La la la, अब थाहा हुँदै